The last time we saw Wilbon, he was chasing around trying to negotiate a deal to get that seat next to Spike Lee so he could watch the game. But we are blessed in this regard. We have with us in Bob Valvano, a native New Yorker, and a basketball coach, college level, for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions relative to those two things. We'll start with being a native New Yorker. You have seen New York fans. We both grew up on Long Island. We've seen fans appreciate greatness in players who were not their own. They can be mean sometimes as well. What kind of reception do you think Michael Jordan will get tonight at Madison Square Garden, the scene of so many times he has hurt the Knicks?
Well, he'll get a standing ovation in the introductions, clearly. And then the Knicks fans would like to see a 100-98 Knicks win, where Jordan has 95 of the points and the other 3 is a three-quarter court desperation shot, because those are always entertaining too. So that would be a perfect night for the Knicks fans. They get entertainment, great performance by Jordan, and the Knicks win. And that's clearly what they're going to root for.
You know, I remember in the All-Star game a couple of years ago, the loudest cheers in the Garden were from Michael Jordan, who was still playing at that point. I guess it's 3 or 4 years ago, and Larry Bird, who was coaching when he was with Indiana. And those guys killed the Knicks all the time. So I think New Yorkers appreciate that. From a coaching standpoint, as you look at Jordan, what do you think is important to Jordan right? This is the first of 82 games. Truly, is it winning the game for his team and scoring just a few points, or is it putting on a show? Because this is the grand stage. There will be more people covering this than have ever covered him in years. Getting 45, even if the Wizards lose. Which would you take?
I think there's actually 2 parts to that answer. The first is, I think he wants them to win and would be willing to play not as well as he knows he's capable early, as long as the Wizards win, because if the Wizards win, clearly that is going to be a tremendous accomplishment, bringing this team back to playoff contention. But
that's down the road.
Well, he can't get there unless they win, and so he would like to win early. But I think he would accept it early, not playing well, thinking he's going to play at a higher level later. To me, I don't think it's an either-or with him. I think the only acceptable scenario for Michael Jordan is that the Wizards win and he plays at a very high level. If one of those components are missing, I think he's going to be very disappointed about this.
Put yourself in Doug Collins' position. This is the first game that Doug Collins is coaching of Michael Jordan in years and years and years. Jordan hired him. How many minutes? Now, this is 38-year-old legs now. How many minutes do you think that Doug Collins wants Michael Jordan to play?
Well, I think that's something that I'd be shocked if they haven't taken a good long visit about and looked at, not just as this game or this week or this month. They're going to have a plan for where he's going to fit in terms of minutes throughout the year.
Absolute plan, like a pitch count for
I think they will. I'd be very surprised. Now, will they adjust it? Of course they will. And the thing I'm going to be interested in is, will they do some things to buy him a couple of extra minutes? Will they play zone a couple of possessions? Will they come back and sit in a 2-3 zone and see if you can give him a little bit of a rest? Because clearly you can rest a guy in a standard 2-3 zone, which now you can play in the NBA.
Well, here's the problem, though. Michael Jordan likes to tap the coach on the leg as he's walking back in the game. I mean, the intention may be only playing 34 minutes, but Jordan taps and says, I'm going in, coach. If you're Doug Collins, you say, no, you sit down?
I think that's going to be a as the game goes decision. I think what's going to happen is, if he taps him in, it's a game they can win. He's going to ask him, you sure, Mike? And Mike's going to go. If it happens 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row, he's going to have to sit down and say, look, you can't keep doing this, because come February, March, April, you're going to be done. At that point, you address it. But on a game-by-game basis, if he feels he can go, I think he's going to let him go.
Another problem here, and this is rare. This happened with Lemieux hiring a coach to coach Pittsburgh, and then when Lemieux came back as a player, within a short amount of time this year, he fired that coach. Doug Collins, hired by Michael Jordan. Is Doug always looking over his shoulder? Because this is the guy who controls his fate. He may only be a player, but, you know, nominally, but he's still running the Wizards, Michael Jordan. How do you work that out?
I think it's the other way around. I think if you're Doug Collins, you're saying to yourself that, you know, the one thing they always talk about in the NBA is the coach has got to get along with his star player. This is the star player who handpicked you. One would guess that Michael picked him with the thought that this is a guy I'd like to play for. I did play for, and I'd like to play for again. If that's the case, I think it gives him, if anything, more security rather than less.
The problem, it seems to me, for the first few games, maybe the first 10 games, is not only are the Wizards going to stand around and watch Michael Jordan and be awed, even if he's not as great as he was, he's still Michael Jordan. I think players on other teams are going to be awed as well. I'm not sure everybody isn't going to be mystified by Michael Jordan at this point.
I'm not so sure. From an opposing standpoint, once the game starts, even at any level you coach, there are guys who are special at that level. And for a few minutes, you're aware they're on the floor. And I realize this guy's a legend. But these NBA players, I think, are not going to be so odd they're not going to be able to perform. I'm more concerned about it from his teammates' point of view. Kwame Brown's got to play, and he's going to stand around and want to watch this guy.
You're a coach for 20 years. He's the greatest talent in the game. That puts tremendous pressure on you as a coach. Would you want to coach Michael Jordan, or would you rather somebody else coached Michael
This
Jordan?
may be a cop-out, but I can't answer because I was never at that NBA level. But I guarantee you, every NBA coach, everyone to a man, would love the opportunity to do that.